Do you feel the need for speed?
So the right wing and anti-SJWs like to do this really weird thing when two kind of movies come out which they feel represent like competing ideologies, and when one movie does bad, the movie they like, they say this is a success for apolitical movies or movies that are just made to have fun and respect the fans, and the other movie is proof of go woke, go broke. So you guys remember, and I actually made a video on this, it was so hilarious. They politicized the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, saying like Sonic the Hedgehog proves people don't like feminism because Sonic the Hedgehog did far better than the Birds of Prey movie. Remember, it was like that female-led DC movie led by Margot Robbie's Harlequin and different people. Ewan McGregor played like Black Mask, and it didn't do that well, so they said it was proof that people were just rejecting woke politics in favour of things made for the fans, like the kids' movie Sonic the Hedgehog. And I guess now the shoe is on the other foot, where they've taken the more serious adult film in Top Gun Maverick, and they're saying the success of Top Gun Maverick proves that people do not want woke movies anymore, and that is also proved by the new Lightyear film, basically meant to be the film Andy watches that inspired the toy Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Chris Evans, because it has one tiny little scene of two women in a relationship sharing a peck on the lips between them. Hardly the most woke thing ever, but apparently that shows that no one likes woke movies, everyone just loves Top Gun Maverick. So in this video today, I'm just going to talk about how this has been politicized, and then of course talk about the more sinister element of this, that it's part of a larger culture war against the LGBT community, which is becoming increasingly successful. And of course, a lot of these people don't really care about movies, they're just using it as part of their political agenda to basically hold up this military propaganda, which is Top Gun, and say, well, this is what movies should be like, pandering to my specific identity, pandering to my specific politics, pandering to me as an American. I can't handle a single on-screen kiss. But before we go any further, if you want to support the video, please like, and in the comments I would say, what did you think of Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick as either military propaganda or as films? And have you seen Lightyear yet, or do you even care about it? Like, is the film really failing because of woke propaganda, or is the film failing because I guess no one really wanted some sort of prequel story for Buzz Lightyear? Also consider supporting me on Patreon. I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and the benefit of that is getting my Nintendo Switch friend code and getting access to the private patrons Discord server. Also subscribe to my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, where I have begun uploading the archive live streams again. Had some fun talking about PragerU propaganda again on stream, and that should be up soon. Also check me out on social media at the Kavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram, and for every 5k we get a new chocolate orange. I finally rearranged this, so we're kind of waiting for one on top. I guess these are both quite similar, so it's not technically a pyramid. I think we need like 2 or 3 more oranges to make it a real pyramid, but when we hit 80k we will be getting another one. So to set the tone of what we're going to be reading about, here is a tweet from Nick Adams in USA. Lightyear is one of the most disgusting and woke movies to ever be created. They castrated Buzz Lightyear in the name of Marxism, because there's nothing more Marxist than a single on-screen kiss. And this is what they're freaking out about. So I'm not going to play you the video because I guess Disney would probably copyright strike my channel. But I've got some screenshots of the scene and I'll show them one after the other to kind of give you a sense of the scene. So basically it's just Buzz and I guess a female colleague. She walks into a room where people are about to have, I think, a surprise party for her. And she goes over to her wife, plants a peck on her lips, and they walk away, and Buzz looks on. And that is pretty much the extent of it. Doesn't seem too Marxist for me, doesn't seem too woke for me. Now, this all just plays into how our society really has conformed to, I guess, this heteronormative narrative, where when we see loads of stuff to do with the opposite sex kissing each other, couples kissing each other, whether that be, you know, people who aren't even in proper relationship, and lots of stuff you see in kids' cartoons, you know, things like Hercules, for example, and of course, a lot of the time, there are actual more adult undertones in relationships. Who remembers that animated DreamWorks film, El Dorado? There's a scene in that is actually quite explicit for an animated children's movie. I don't really remember any outrage about this when it actually is inherently sexual. But yes, they see this thing as some sort of a threat to society, some sort of proof of wokeness, of Marxism infiltrating everything, when you're just seeing a really, really innocent kiss between a couple. Something children see all the time in their media, just because it's two women doesn't really change the innocence of it. So I just want to talk about the conservative reaction to this. And of course, it comes during a time where Disney is being demonized as somehow indoctrinating children in gender ideology, because they originally didn't really care about Ron DeSantis's Don't Say Gay bill, where you can't essentially tell children even gay relationships exist. But then after a big backlash by their own employees, they came out against it. So now the right wing are going after Disney and think somehow that all communists love the Disney Corporation. Yeah, I love a company that's completely taking over film, TV, has its fingers in so much US entertainment that it is bordering on becoming a type of monopoly. I love that corporation. I love its history of being anti-communist as well. But conservatives are celebrating because the film is not doing well. And the film is not doing well for a variety of reasons, but you can probably guess them yourself. Do children care enough about Toy Story in 2022 to really want to go and see this movie, which doesn't even really seem like it's trying to appeal to young children so much? Because I think the animation looks really, really cool, and that makes me kind of want to watch it, and it looks even a tiny bit more serious than traditional Pixar movies. And I've always wanted Pixar to do something more serious, and that's kind of why I'm interested in this. As a really young child, I don't know how much this appeals to me, whereas the original Toy Story is about toys, about this kid owning toys. You can see the appeal, and of course there are other films out at the moment which are competing for everyone's attention, but I don't think you can say that Top Gun Maverick doing well has anything to do with Lightyear doing bad. I don't think they're related at all. Top Gun just has its appeal and has the star power of Tom Cruise. But let's get into some of the backlash to Lightyear first. So just the Hollywood Reporter saying, the Toy Story spin-off is suffering at theatres thanks to brand confusion, fierce competition, and right-wing politicians. There's no evidence proving that the political conversation hurt Lightyear, although the film did under-index by a fairly large margin in the Midwest. Disney insiders counter that red-leaning states contributed the same percentage of the overall gross for Lightyear as they did for Sonic 2. Analyst Sean Robbins of Box Office Pro says there are larger issues at play beyond politics, but adds the latter can't be ignored. We should additionally consider unfortunate pushback over the film's same-gender relationship from ultra-conservative families who have also been educated for 2 years to expect Pixar movies on streaming sooner rather than later. The combination of those things seems to have instilled a "we'll watch it before letting our kids see it" mentality in some communities, particularly those with strict religious views, in contrast to the filmmaker's intention of championing equality and representation for everyone. So again, more reaction. So here's the tweet by Jim Jordan. You can see it's not fake. Lauren Boebert, Disney's Lightyear proves yet again that everything woke turns to, can't even say it. Jack Posobiec, Disney's Woke Lightyear movie flops in opening weekend after controversy over Kiss and decision to axe conservative star Tim Allen as voice of Buzz. So these guys are also very butthurt. Apparently Tim Allen's not getting any work anymore because he's a conservative. Someone else, the movie Lightyear is full woke. It must be boycotted 100%. Hurt them at the box office. So someone in Oklahoma actually had this on their cinema door. Warning, attention parents, the management of this theatre discovered after booking Lightyear there is a same-sex kissing scene within the first 30 minutes of the Pixar movie. We will do all we can to fast forward through that scene, but it might not be exact. We apologise for any inconvenience this late discovery of this scene causes, which is absolutely insane. So a story about this on NBC. The sign on the window of the 89er Theatre in Kingfisher, a small town of about 5,000 people, 50 miles from Oklahoma City, and it had this sign. It was posted over the weekend but was gone Monday morning. Oklahoma resident Patricia Casbeck, 42, said she initially thought the sign was a joke when she first saw it posted on social media, saying, "I told them it was completely insulting for them to censor a same-gender kiss when they'd never done this to an opposite-gender kiss. Calling the sign cruel and bigoted, I will never see a movie at the theatre while it's under this ownership." So I just wanted to quickly get into some of the anti-SJW reaction. Not too much, because I've got some articles I want to read by the Federalist talking about this and the Daily Wire. But here is Ben Shapiro and some Geeks and Gamers people also talking about this.
Because yesterday, I tweeted that Disney is putting a same-sex kiss in the brand new movie Lightyear. And this is the new Buzz Lightyear film. It is directed at small children who like the Toy Story series. And they've made a very big deal out of this. I mean, it's not like Disney is not treating this as historic. They are treating this as historic. And this is just another great example of the left doing something that is deliberately provocative And then when you notice them saying, well, it's not happening. And they say, well, it is because you just said it is. And they say, well, it is happening and it's good. And if you notice, you're a bigot. And that is the idea here. So I noticed, which according to the left means that I'm a bigot. And I said, maybe you should take it under advisement that the sexual values that the left teaches are not the ones you want your kids to learn from Lightyear the movie, which doesn't seem all that controversial to me, frankly. It seems like, the sort of traditional norm, male-female couple producing children being what is in children's movies. I'm not sure why that is supposed to change or why it must change or why it's necessary to teach small children the prevailing sexual values of the left. Why is that a thing that is necessary? I mean, there will be plenty of time for that later on in life when kids are fully capable of understanding the moral values and judgments that are implied by sexual behavior, for example, or by the choices that you choose to make in your relationship.
Another example of get woke, go broke. And here you have Disney and Pixar acting like they're confused. What happened? How did this film underperform? After 4 weeks of being out, Top Gun Maverick nearly beat Lightyear in Lightyear's opening weekend. I want you to think about that. 4 weeks. Top Gun Maverick almost beat Lightyear in its opening weekend. A film that is based on a multi-billion-dollar franchise in Toy Story. A film that is based off an iconic character. And what it shows us is that wokeness is a disease. And we've known this. We've seen it over and over again, and Chris Evans had to open his mouth. That's what happens when you are part of the woke mob.
That is now going to be a struggle for the movie Lightyear, but honestly, I don't know who's feeling too bad for Disney. They have made their bed. They have done this time and time again, and it looks like once again, we may be looking at a massive, big budget flop from Disney. This is what happens when you focus on identity politics and virtue signaling ahead of what the fans want.
So obviously the Ben Shapiro stuff is like more politicized, more sinister in my opinion, because he's talking about like sexuality in terms of like everything gay must be inherently like very sexual, and you are exposing children to that when they shouldn't be exposed to that. Of course, that's the whole framing of this whole issue, is that anything to do with LGBT is essentially sexualizing young people. And I also do love with the Ryan Kindle talking about like the fans, who super fans of Toy Story really not want to watch this film because of one tiny moment of a same-sex kiss. I'm finding that really, really hard to believe, but like I said at the start, they're just picking on this film because they think it proves their point. And the criteria for woke is just so ridiculous, because in my mind, if we actually are using woke as a word that means anything, I would say something that is exposing maybe like, capitalism, or exposing something awful in society, or having something to say about society, having a commentary of society. And that's why I've always said, I laugh when these people say they love Blade Runner, or they love Dune, and they love all these films like Star Wars, which have these very like left-wing politics, or at the very least like stuff that they would see as left-wing. So anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, anti-capitalism, all these different things. But they don't really care about those films because I guess the main characters for them are like white straight people, so they like them. It's so bizarre these guys pretend they're scared of like films like Lightyear brainwashing people in some like leftist agenda or gender ideology, while all of them have expressed how much they love actual woke films. Now I just want to get to some more conservative reaction in some articles before we contrast it with them using Top Gun to bash this film even more. So the Federalist, Dole Lightyear is another victim of bored woke filmmakers. It's fair to see this as a yet another instance of the truism, go woke, go broke. It's worth asking why Disney keeps doing this. They have a whole slew of perfectly profitable franchises to tap, and they can churn out blockbusters from any of them without breaking a sweat. Why do they feel the need to shoehorn in a lesbian kissing scene that nobody asked for? When entertaining people become secondary, it's only natural to propagate a message. For example, it was clear Frozen 2 would make a lot of money just because it was Frozen 2, so the creators decided to turn the movie into a convoluted propaganda piece that spoke on the environment, the treatment of indigenous people, and female empowerment. No one seemed to mind that the movie was terrible, and there's little doubt that Disney will make another sequel. However, what really seems to lie at the heart of this decision to promote lesbianism in a kid's movie is something more profound and personal than anyone cares to admit. Disney filmmakers, most of the creative class in Hollywood, have become boring. They aren't all that interesting, and nothing really interests them. Action, drama, romance, and all the magic magic of movie making doesn't excite them anymore. Rather, like bored teenagers addicted to TikTok, Disney executives are more interested in identity politics and social justice, and they believe that everyone else is interested in this too. Sure, people may watch a new show about Obi-Wan Kenobi because they know and love the character, but what's really going to hook them is the black female antagonist because she's, wait for it, black and female. And if they don't like it, they're haters, and Disney will delight in taking a stand against these anonymous bigots. These people are just so clearly like racist and bigoted. It's not even subtle anymore. Like, if your whole problem with something like Obi-Wan or Buzz Lightyear is for these minor things, then it's just clear you have a problem with it. Like, you can't say you have a problem with like leftism, wokeism, all these different things, because there isn't anything inherently leftist about these things. Like tell the ancient Spartans that being gay is woke. Tell loads of ancient cultures that being gay is somehow being communist. And the thing about a black female in Star Wars has always been diverse. Star Wars is a place with like 20 million, probably more species of aliens, and your problem is a black woman. That says so much about you. In the context of Star Wars, what a ridiculous thing to even point out and think about. When I saw Saw Gerrera in Rogue One, I wasn't like, oh yeah, another black man, how woke. So it's rooted firmly in being bigoted against women, black people, black women in particular, and of course, gay people. But what is the antidote for such wokeness? Well, it's Top Gun Maverick. I love my neocon propaganda in a film, and this is what all films should be. To be fair, I will be fair, I've always maintained in these videos talking about conservatives and their love for different media properties and how I don't understand them. I've always said I like Top Gun. I don't think any of it is all that great, apart from the action's pretty good for the 80s. But it's just the whole package together is really good. Like, so cheesy. So like iconic for that era. You know, the first film, pretty good. Of course, absolute propaganda, made Navy applications skyrocket. Now, Top Gun Maverick is, of course, more propaganda, but I liked this film as well. I liked it as a legacy film. I liked how it evolved the story of the first film, and I think the second one is far better. But I would also say, in its defense, despite it being military propaganda, despite it having to be a positive depiction of the US military because the US military let them use all their stuff, I would say I don't want to join the military after watching this. I wouldn't say many people would, because I think the tension in the film comes from that the mission they're going on is so dangerous that you can't really see yourself ever wanting to volunteer for that. And I think the film does a good job in showing how dangerous and hard this mission is. And it kind of just seems like, what, is that your everyday job? You've got to do stuff like this, and then when it's over, you just move on to the next thing, and you might do that all again. Obviously, I'm coming at it from like a left-wing point of view, but overall, I like the film. And if you haven't seen it yet, I would read about how they filmed it, because it's absolutely crazy. Like, massive respect to the actors involved for going through all that G-force training and actually being involved in the aircraft when they were flying and filming their own scenes. Like, they had to record themselves, you know, with their own dialogue. Like, massive respect to these people. So I actually really enjoyed the movie, and just like a, you know, a dumb action movie, but you can respect how it was filmed and like respect what a crazy guy Tom Cruise is. But conservatives are absolutely lapping it up. They see it as like apolitical, nothing to do with identity politics. Not like the whole film is like a big America circle jerk. But like I said, they're also using it to bash Lightyear. And you even saw with Jeremy's comments that he's saying, well, Top Gun is still making money. Look at Lightyear. And it's just this weird thing they do where they somehow compare these two films, which really have nothing in common. And I wouldn't even say are competing. Like, what age rating is Top Gun? Can kids even go and see it? But let's read some reaction before going into how much conservatives are loving Top Gun. So this guy's saying, Top Gun Maverick has brought in almost 800 million worldwide while Lightyear bombed its opening weekend. Further proof that people want to go to the movies to be entertained, not inundated with woke propaganda. This country needs more patriotic movies like Top Gun and fewer woke movies like Lightyear. Tom Cruise's latest blockbuster, Top Gun Maverick, has been given a thumbs up and a solid 10 from President of Brazil, Bolsonaro. Took to social media earlier Thursday to offer his applause for the blockbuster. What a great endorsement. So the reason so many of these conservatives are celebrating this film as well is because the first one, of course, was a massive sort of endorsement of the US military, this massive military propaganda film which makes the military look awesome. So a lot of these people are saying they like it because it calls back to the greatness of the Reagan era. You guys remember the greatness of the Reagan era, where it just spent untold billions on weapons while crushing unions and deregulating the economy? basically started the downfall of the American middle class. And then another article, Top Gun Maverick isn't just nostalgia for the 80s, it's nostalgia for American greatness. The movie is so unabashedly patriotic, so much so that multi-billion-dollar Chinese investor backed out of it. Not only is the film free of Chinese Communist Party propaganda, it's free of token left-wing social and political propaganda. The only agenda being pushed is that America is the best country in the world, and the men and women who risk their lives to defend her are heroes, worthy of our respect, and that's an agenda I'm more than fine with. Maverick doesn't just celebrate America via inspiring music, flags and uniforms and dogfighting, it tells a pretty epic story of heroic people with a plot that's deeper and more profound than the original. It's confident, not angsty, and it celebrates greatness in a way that our modern, victimizing, equity-obsessed culture has largely forgotten how to do. So before we just discuss this a bit more, I just want to show you Ben Shapiro's reaction. So he's made a review on his channel, and Ben Shapiro's reviews are literally garbage. I'm so surprised he failed as a screenwriter in Hollywood. He basically just describes the film for the whole time, but I just want to play you like a 1-minute clip from the end.
One of the things that Hollywood very often gets wrong, aside from the idea that they will not give you what you want, they're more interested in surprising the audience than in pleasing the audience. That's not what this movie does. It gives you precisely what you want on pretty much every score. The other thing that Hollywood does here is it just treats the military as people who are awesome, because they are awesome. And Hollywood has spent decades treating the military as either victims of mental health problems or people who are victimized by the evil American regime, or as imperialists themselves, or as corrupt, or as terrible. At the very least, as people who are really sort of damaged people in the military. That's not what you get from this. You have people who are under enormous stress, but these are people who are not damaged by the enormous stress. They're people who are just strong, and that's cool. It's good to portray people in the military that way because the vast majority of people in the military are that way. There's sort of just a baseline patriotism about the film. It's never spoken. But, I mean, there are things like Tom Cruise gives a speech and he's in front of a giant American flag. I'm glad to see Hollywood actually appeal in this film to an American audience. This movie is going to play better, I would imagine, in the United States than it will abroad. It'll probably play abroad because, again, they don't actually name the nation that's being attacked here. They don't name the nuclear facility. They say it's the enemy. And they just say that's what they use throughout the film, so as not to offend anybody. But the film itself is pretty red, white, and blue.
So you guys remember, a thing that conservatives, and especially conservative nerds, used to say is, get your politics out of my games. Get your politics out of my films. But what they really mean is, please pander to my politics. Please don't ever challenge me. And I do love how they're latching onto this film saying, like, this is what America used to be. A time where we won wars and our military were all heroes and it wasn't complicated at all. I just want to be fed military propaganda my whole life because I want my neocon beliefs and my conservative prejudices confirmed by media to make me feel better about myself. And the problem is these people can't enjoy films they see as woke because they feel like it's not pandering specifically to them. They want everything catered to them. And that's the main problem with diversity, is they feel it's not catering to them anymore because how can I relate to Miss Marvel when it stars a Pakistani American Muslim teen? How can I relate? Everything has to be relatable. Not that I could learn something from different cultures and different stories. Just give me the films I grew up with. Just give me neocon propaganda. Just give me the US military being awesome and never doing anything bad so I can live in my conservative bubble where I never have to challenge my beliefs. The original Top Gun, the same with Red Dawn, which I also watched recently, the charm of them is because they're propaganda, but it's from a different time, right? So that's why I like it, because it clearly just is military propaganda coated in this 80s aesthetic that could only exist in this time. So it's like a massive throwback for me, and that's why I like it. But if I was around at the time, I'd be like, what the hell have I just watched here? Like, this is so unrealistic, cheesy, and stupid. And I think the new one is a bit more of its time, where it's not trying to be so over the top and cheesy. It gets it all out of the way in the first 2 minutes by playing Danger Zone and having basically the same scene from the start of the first one, because it is more reflective and serious in tone, and the propaganda is less overt and stupid, but it is still military propaganda at the end of the day. I just respect the craft of the film a lot more. But to a lot of these like older Americans who yearn for Ronald Reagan, and you saw my PragerU Kids video, that whole animated cartoon about Ronald Reagan was absolutely laughable. Basically, he's conservative God. They want that time back. They want the time back where the US would just overthrow the government of Grenada. They want the time back where the US would just overthrow the government of Panama, go to war with Saddam Hussein over Kuwait, invade Afghanistan, invade Iraq, and not care about human rights, not care about poor American soldiers. It makes me laugh because Oliver Stone was actually involved early with Top Gun before he dropped out, and his version was nothing like what it was going to be. But Oliver Stone, of course, kind of revolutionized the Western military film with Platoon, which did genuinely show the struggles of Americans. It still falls in the same problems of primarily showing like the Vietnam War as an American tragedy, when it's not, it's a Vietnamese tragedy. But it showed soldiers as like actual people. And like I said at the time, so many people came up to him afterwards talking about how this is like so realistic, in complete contrast to Top Gun. But Ben Shapiro believes that's like self-hating. You're saying how bad America is and they're all broken and suffer from like PTSD. Think of all the insane military worship in America. Just because filmmakers don't want to make propaganda for free anymore, mainly for the US military, doesn't mean it doesn't exist in society. But overall, what we're seeing is just a stupid case study of them taking two movies that don't appeal to the same types of people, don't have the same audience, but framing them against each other because allegedly they have completely different politics. And the only reason Top Gun is doing well is because it's not woke. The only reason Lightyear is doing bad is because it's woke for one kissing scene, and that's the end of it. But these people totally ignore, of course, you know, go woke, go broke is not even a thing. Think of all those terrible conservative movies like God's Not Dead, that recent one by the Daily Wire which no one has watched, starring Gina Carano. Most people like allegedly like woke stuff because often woke people make better things. That's why these nerd channels are all massive lovers of Star Wars, despite George Lucas being a pretty clear leftist who says the rebels are the Viet Cong, makes films like the prequels, and he says Palpatine's inspired by Richard Nixon. Got no problem with those woke politics. The whole of Dune being inspired by anti-colonial revolutions against Europeans. Got no problems with those woke politics. Denis Villeneuve saying that Dune is about anti-capitalism. Got no problem with that woke politics. Because Paul Atreides is a white straight guy. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the most woke thing ever because there is a black female inquisitor. Lightyear is the most woke thing ever because there is one scene of two women kissing. Anyway, that is the video. Let me know what you guys think. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram, consider supporting me on Patreon. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.